video is sponsored by Loot Crate, the monthly subscription service for epic, geek, and gamer items and pop culture gear. Hey everyone, you've stumbled upon The Naked Truth. This is a vlog series where we vlog au naturel in our most vulnerable state. It is not a sexy thing, it's about being raw and open and honest and vulnerable when we talk about raw and open and honest and sometimes vulnerable topics. My name is Trisha Hershberger, and today we've got a real heated one. So I'm going to ask, like always, that people don't be assholes in the comments, but I do want you to get riled up and I want you to get passionate because that's what this series is about. We talk about this stuff, and this is a place where we can share our opinions with each other, hopefully without fear of crazy backlash, which ironically enough is exactly what we're talking about today. But before we jump into that, I want to thank this week's Naked Army Naked Truth vloggers who sent in their own Naked Truths last week. That's Chris, Boom12, Kavaja, Nicholas, Jeremy, Colin Prescott, and Kristen and Julia. If you want to check out their vlogs, they are linked in the description below. Okay, so this week, like I said, we're doing a real tough topic. This was suggested by a few people, but most recently, Zydrain said, anyways, Trisha, I'd love to see your honest view on political correctness. Are we being too politically correct in unnecessary situations, or should we actually improve in that department as a society? Also, Kim Richards says, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's going too far / shutting down conversations about a certain topic and what is simply being correct. And to answer the last part of Kim's question, I don't know that we can say this is simply being correct, definitive, objective. I don't know that I can't say that. You know me, I always go by the wise man knows that he knows nothing, or the wise lady knows that she knows nothing, and that we should always be questioning and challenging ourselves. So I think it's hard to say, this is definitely correct, I've decided that, now everybody do it. That's just a tricky thing to say. So when we're talking about political correctness, I went to the dictionary, and politically correct things are described as language, policies, or measures which are intended not to offend or disadvantage any particular group of people in society. That sounds great, right? And so the ideal version of freedom of speech in a politically correct society is a place where people can express ideas with each other. Everyone speaks eloquently. They have well-informed and well-thought-out opinions, and they're not purposefully trying to hurt anyone, offend anyone, incite any kind of violence, and we all respect each other's opinions because we all respect each other as people, and everybody sounds reasonable. You can see how this is like the Disneyland version of freedom of speech, and in a politically correct society that, you know, when you think about it like that, it makes me think that that's not really something that's ever going to exist. It's a beautiful ideal, but is it something that can realistically be achieved? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, guys. So as people are more free, you know, with the internet, with social media, and, you know, just with communication in general, as society advances, as people are more free to say, hey, don't say that, that offends me, then people, you know, go to great lengths to say, ooh, well, I don't want to offend anybody. And so then people are afraid to share their thoughts because they might offend somebody. But at the same time, we don't want to shut down those thoughts, but we also don't want to shut down people from being able to express that that's not something that they agree with, or that's something that they're sensitive to. So in my opinion, there are great points on both sides. So in the question of, have we gone too far or not far enough? Have we gone too far? The arguments that people will say that, yes, we have gone too far when it comes to being a politically correct society, will say that, you know, people, like I just said, don't feel free to express any kind of opinion that opposes or challenges the mainstream for fear of any kind of backlash, or for fear that they might offend somebody. They want to be nice people, so they keep their opinions quiet, which is a very dangerous place to be in. People that'll say, yes, political correctness has gone too far. Comedians. I know a lot of comedians from SourceFed and from other people that I know here in Hollywood who are pursuing that say, you know, it's really hard to make a joke without offending people these days. And you hear about the bigger comedians saying that they refuse to perform on college campuses for this exact reason. So people that'll say, yes, we've gone too far, will say that political correctness is killing comedy. People will say that we've gone too far when you hear about trigger words and safe spaces on college campuses, saying that, you know, we're trying to protect ourselves, or we're trying to protect people in universities by creating these safe spaces, but in actuality, we're not exposing them to the harshness of the real world. So we're doing the opposite. We're incubating them in this bubble, and then when they do get to the real world, they're going to be very ill prepared for how to do that. And so they'll say, yes, we've gone too far. And those people that say, yes, political correctness has gone too far, will also argue that freedom of speech trumps hurt feelings above all else. And I think a lot of those are really solid, good points. And then on the other side, you'll have the people that say, no, we haven't gone far enough when it comes to being politically correct. This generation that's coming up, a lot of times you hear the people arguing for more political correctness are millennials and youth, and people arguing against it are people that are a little bit older and set in their ways, and are resistant to change. So the people that are saying, no, we haven't gone far enough, are saying exactly that. We're trying to make a change and you're resisting it. We're trying to make the world a better place. And, it's always easier to not deal with change. We on the internet know that change never goes over well. But eventually people get used to it. Is that one of those situations where, people who are stuck in their ways just need to get with the times and realize that we're becoming a kinder society? That would be that argument. People will also say that being politically correct is just being polite and not being offensive, just be kind to each other, which always sounds like a great thing. And they'll also say that, yes, you have freedom of speech. Being politically correct, they'll say, is not trying to infringe on your freedom of speech, but it does give people the right to tell you when you're being a jerk. If you're using freedom of speech as a shield to be a complete asshat, then people will say, if that's offending me, I have the right to tell you that's offending me. And then the last thing that I'll say, for people who are in the no, we're not politically correct enough camp, is that they feel like they are trying to make the world a better place by making us more aware of different groups of people that we may not have grown up around, whether it be a different race, a different gender, a different sexual orientation, anything that is other than the world and the, mindset that we currently live in. We should learn about those other cultures, those other races, sexes, sexual orientations, whatever it may be. We should learn about the people that are different than us, because that's going to make us a kinder, more accepting culture. Again, I think those are all really good points. And, what I try to create here in the Naked Truth, in this discussion, and what we're doing, people say, oh, it's a gimmick that we vlog, as we are in our birthday suits, but it's really just about accepting ourselves as who we are and our opinions, and realizing that we're all just people. At our base, we're not a brand, we're not an idea, we're just people, and we're trying to learn from each other. And so I talked about that Disneyland idea of politically correct freedom of speech, where people can communicate with each other and share opposing opinions in an open dialogue format, and not intend to harm people with their difference of opinion, but for us all to learn from each other. I think that's a beautiful thing. And yes, while I do think it's an ideal that's hard to achieve, just because something is an ideal, in my opinion, doesn't mean we shouldn't reach for it. So in the comments section, please don't go out of your way to be an asshat, but at the same time, don't be afraid to express an opinion that you feel like might be in the minority or might be contrary to someone else's opinion, but realize that you're expressing different opinions so that we can all learn from each other. That's the beauty of that. I feel like social media has led to this incredible fear where, like, the thought police and the majority are just going to come after you if you say anything that someone else might deem as inappropriate or offensive because they disagree with it. Something being offensive because you disagree with it, I feel like, is very different than something being offensive because there was direct intent to harm, or, something that incites violence or that kind of thing. But that's for me. That's where I draw the line, and everyone's going to be different. So, it's hard to say where that objective line is, if there is one. So again, I want to pick your brains on this one, guys. And we talk about social media and the thought police coming after you and it being particularly an issue there. But when it comes to the internet and social media, you can always block someone. You can always delete your account. There's ways to get around that if that becomes a problem for you. But now that it's becoming so prevalent in our society that it's in physical spaces as well, like on college campuses, like I mentioned earlier, that makes it a lot trickier. So my question to you guys is, do you think that PC culture has gone too far or not far enough, and why? And please answer that either in the comment section below or in a Naked Truth vlog of your very own. And before we sign off this week, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to this episode's sponsor, Loot Crate. Yay! February's Loot Crate is a Crate of the Dead in honor of Walking Dead having some new episodes and Deadpool coming out. It's the Crate of the Dead, and it's going to have 5 exclusives, complete with 1 t-shirt, 2 figures, and again, 5 exclusives that you get if you get February's crate. And if you want to do that, you can click the link in the description below. You can use the code Trisha, if you like, for 10% off. And sign up by February 19th if you want February's crate. That's the cutoff. All right, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Again, thank you to Loot Crate for allowing us to have this open discussion and being part of it. I feel like anyone who's having this open dialogue about it, no matter which side, if you feel like we've gone too far, you feel like we haven't gone far enough, at least if we're talking about it, we're trying to make the world a better place. And that's an awesome position to be in. So thank you for being one of the ones who talks and not just one of the ones who goes to their own forum where everybody agrees with each other, virtual high fives and pats themselves on the back and then never expresses that to the rest of the world. All right, guys. See you next week.